This is Freedom Isn't Free. I am Brandon Gentili, and my guest today is RJ Pepino. RJ is a real estate up and coming mogul. He's a creator, a husband, girl dad, which we'll have to talk about a little bit as well, because as am I both now. World traveler, eight-figure real estate owner, has 130 plus rental units right now, and starting to do a lot of coaching and just giving back a lot to the community, which we're going to talk about a bit today. Had a YouTube channel, has some other platforms that, again, we'll talk about here, and that he is starting to go down and just give back to the community that he has given a lot to him. So, RJ, welcome to Freedom Isn't Free.
Hey man, for having me on. It's the power of social media, right, Brandon?
It is. It is. Yeah, we just met over the last few weeks, and I saw your content and the stuff you're doing. I love what you're doing, and just thought again, we talked off air about the freedom isn't free, and just all types of freedom, obviously, and that you can have in life, and I thought you exemplified a lot of that in life, and just the right qualities and ethics and stuff like that. And it's power of social media and just getting your brand and story out there. So in saying all that, start from the beginning. We touched on it a little bit, but kind of your background story, just kind of how you came up and how you got to where you are today.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I started, my real estate journey was back in 2009, and before that, I grew up. My parents got here in the 70s. I'm first generation Filipino, so they had these high hopes for me to go to school, get a really good job, be a doctor. And so one of the things that I did younger was I got into sports. And I got really good at tennis, and so they kind of invested in me with that and saw that I had a lot of potential. I got decent grades. I definitely wasn't like a straight A student, but I got some pretty good grades, and I got a full ride to go play tennis up north in a little state college called Youngstown State. And then my my journey there, trying to be really the best tennis player and going to be there to go to be a doctor, kind of ended, and I was looking for really what was my next move. I wasn't I didn't want to become a doctor. I was on my own, so I had the freedom, and so I looked into sales because I wanted to make some money. Was pretty successful at that, and I worked for a wireless company, and they were just in their early stages, and I was making like 70 grand as a young 20-year old, and I'm like, man, I think this is the route I want to take. So did really well there, won a bunch of these awards. That's really where I learned this to sell, and I got a lot out of that short career. When I say short, I mean I was in that industry for about 7 years before I jumped into real estate. But I can't say it enough. Like, if you know how to sell, it'll take you into a lot of places in this world. So I was selling, I was selling the iPhones back then, and
Mm.
I was looking to get promoted. And before, because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was thinking like, hey, I'm going to climb this corporate ladder, and I was just tired, sick and tired of working the retail hours, like 80 plus hours. You can't shut it off. And I was just spinning my wheels. I was trying to get promoted, got passed up so many times in promotions. And I remember one day I was sitting in my um, Nissan Altima, um, super dejected. I was just like feeling really down on myself. And I was like, you know what? I had that defining moment. I'm like, I need to find something else. What else is out there? And I put it out to the universe. And then next thing you know, I get a phone call, not that same day, but a couple of days later, I get a phone call from my brother saying, hey, check out this book. I think you're going to resonate with it. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I'm like, oh, what's the book about? And he's like, yeah, it's like what the rich tell their kids that you need to know about. I'm like, oh, okay. So I read the book, and it completely just changed my whole mindset right then and there. Like, I think I read the book in like, one day, and put it down, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I got to go to this like 3-day seminar thing.
Hmm.
Uh, but that book right there changed my mindset about business and money, and passive income, and so I got really interested in what this passive income was about. And I paid for the money. We went to a 3-day seminar, sat there and listened to a guy on stage, and he was just like, saying that real estate's the way to go. You can make millions of dollars. And I was like, just like hooked. And I'm like, if that guy could do it, so can I, you know, so can I. And that right there was like led me down the path of real estate. And so I was still working that job. I had relocated Youngstown and I moved back to Columbus back in '07, and I was doing it kind of like half-assing and part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing it before work. I was getting like my signs ready, and I was my very first like endeavor into real estate investing was a rehab project, and that failed. And so I was researching stuff online about like how to flip properties, and I found some guy online who was flipping properties without even putting any money down or anything. So I'm like, what is this? And it led me to wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
So still working that job 80 hours a week, finding ways to get my business started in wholesaling. Was like doing it before work, after work, during lunch, nights and weekends. Like it was consuming me. Like I didn't go out. My friends were asking what the heck I was doing. I was putting up these signs and big 18 by 24 yellow signs that still work, just a low cost of marketing if you want to do that. But I was doing that for about a year and a half, not getting anything, getting properties in contract, but they weren't really good deals. And so that led me to do some more digging around and searching in my local area for a mentor locally that knew the market. And I found a mentor, luckily. I think that was back in like 2009. I found a mentor. We connected. I found him actually. I was on a webinar. I found him. I'm like, wow, this guy's local. So I got in this coaching program and literally did a deal in like 60 days with him. And that
Wow.
was my wholesale deal that I did. So I started off doing that for a number of years with a previous business partner. Um, he was that previous business partner went on and bought some rental properties, but my mindset really wasn't there yet to get to, that whole like next level of buying rentals and, realizing that that's really the true path to wealth. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know, 2011. And I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? This wholesaling thing is great. When you're flipping properties, you're getting a lot of income, but you start at zero every month, you start at
Right.
zero hustling. So to me, and I was just, it was just me and like maybe like a VA. And so I was just by myself and I'm like, how can I scale this? Like I really need to get some rental properties. So I partnered up with my business partner now in 2012. We started acquiring rentals. Our first year, we acquired 13. We didn't know what we were doing. We found private money through his connections and these investors that were out of Arizona. And thank God for them. They're still our friends today, and we still have deals going on with them.
Wow.
They showed us how to manage properties, how to rehab properties, how to do the rent to own strategy. And we learned from them, but also we learned more by actually getting out there in the streets and signing leases, factors out there, checking up on them, making sure the rehab was going great, um, posting notices, putting up the sign. That was my life, and I don't want to trade it for anything because I learned so much from that. And I'll still do that today, and I'm not above that at all. I'll do what we have to do. But that was how we got started, and we've been accumulating rentals ever since 2012. But we found a little niche of selling rental properties from 2013 to about 2018, and we were one of the biggest turnkey companies. Turnkey basically stands for a company that you know finds the distressed asset, does the rehab, rents it out, does the property management, and then sells it to an investor looking for cash flow. So we had that company for about 5 years, 5 years or so. And then Dave and I, who's my business partner, he and I talked about, hey, we really need to focus on our own portfolio, because we were stuck in that 60 to 80 properties, and we wanted to get to the next level. So we decided that it's time to just focus on our own portfolio, and we did that. Haven't looked back ever since. We've got about 130 right now, and we're ramping up to do. We want to add, at least double that amount this year in the markets that we're in, and we're just getting started. I mean, we have, we, we're still pretty young guys. Still got some aches and pains now that we're kind of later in our 30s, but so that's in a nutshell. That's like that's how I came up, and happy for the lessons I've learned and the connections that I've made throughout this journey. And it's still going. We're still buying rentals today. I think we have one in contract today that we did a deal analyzation on that we're going to keep and put in our rental portfolio.
That's awesome. That's very cool. That's a heck of a story. Thanks for sharing that, RJ. I mean, I think that, the story helps people obviously, just resonate with who you are, because all of us have different stories, but at the same time, there's so many people that are starting out, like we talked about in the beginning, or they just started out, they want to get into it, and you have a hard time sometimes relating to, like, oh, hey, RJ has, 100 plus properties, 130 properties or units, and I could never get there, or that's so far away. But it's a story similar to a lot of people out there, right? It's one thing at a time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think I thank you for sharing that, because it really helps people relate to what you have become now. What Speaking of that, I mean, you talked about a lot of stuff there. Obviously, playing tennis, obviously playing at a high level. What are some of those things, like in the beginning, that helped you prepare? You talked about tennis. Obviously going and learning sales in the beginning there. That, you touched on, obviously, being the skill, probably one of the number one skills of an entrepreneur is being able to sell. Talk about that for a minute, just kind of like how that really kind of shaped what you were doing, what you were about to do over the next, that next decade, basically, learning to sell, but also maybe some of the mental barriers people have, or getting into sales. Obviously, there's a lot of mental barriers people have with sales and getting into that. Maybe being an athlete and playing tennis maybe helped to some of that, ease the transition. If you could elaborate on some of that, and just kind of some of those, your own barriers and your own mental demons maybe you had or didn't have.
Yeah, I learned quickly in my 20s that like the successes that I've had in my life, what led me to get to those successes was always working on myself, and that's always stuck with me. How did I become a good tennis player? It was practice and sacrifice and consistency, and I took that work ethic, which I got from my parents. I talk about that in a lot of my videos, but and put it in and applied it into sales. And the best thing that I learned from one of my mentors, I read these books and follow him, is Tony Robbins. He's like, you got to model yourself to successful people, and that's what I learned how to do, and I got good at that. So when I was seeing success in my sales job, well, I looked to see who was successful in that in the company, and learned how they were doing it. Right, learned the way that they were building rapport, the way that they were processing the sales. And I learned how to do that by basically just watching it, observing it, and in a way copying it, right? Making it my own, but still, like, you're modeling success. And so I'm still doing that today. So I put out on my Facebook today that I'm looking for a mentor in the field of real estate and business and life. And I want to get to that next level. You have to have some accountability and mentorship. So I'm looking. So if you know anybody that is direct, love it. There's always that next level. Once you reach a level, always that next. I want to be uncomfortable again. I want to be held accountable, because I know that those are the pieces that has gotten me to where I am today, and that will continue to get me to the next level. So absolutely, man. Sales, you learn that skill, that you're going to go, you can take it to anywhere. But
yeah, that's, like, I mean, sales, you can probably couple that with negotiation. Obviously, they're kind of one and the same in a way. And just the power of that. What do you think the biggest, skill in sales negotiation? I mean, would you say it's empathy, just being a great listener? What do you think one of the, I guess maybe what is your biggest skill in sales that you have yourself?
So you said it. I mean, empathy is part of it, and you also have to be a good listener so that you understand how to help the person
Yeah.
before you even want to start talking about the money. You got
Mhm.
to build rapport first, and that's something that we teach our folks, our sales team, is that don't even start the conversation out with like what they're asking for the property. You don't want to talk money yet. We use a system called form where it's you talk about family. O stands for occupation, R stands for recreation, and then M is at last. It's for motivation or money. So we use that system. My style is that where I build rapport, and I have more of like an assumptive close.
Mhm.
That's I learned, and so but you know if you talk to my business partner, who I think is one of the best salespeople I've ever encountered. He's got a really good way of enrolling somebody onto his side, and so I've seen it in action many times. Um,
Like
but there,
collaborative almost, like getting them to like, hey, work on this together type thing.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's strategy. He's if there's another one. There was kind of like a real estate sales Olympics or something like that I saw last year.
Mhm.
I would put money on him to
Wow.
there's another contest like that. But
That's
yeah, so
cool.
before you even talk, that's my I guess my tip to
Mhm.
your.
Very cool. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Because again, it's always, I think, a mental barrier for a lot of people. No matter who you are, there's always some trepidation there a lot of times. And so, yeah, thanks for sharing that. You mentioned working on yourself, obviously in sports and now in business, continuing to do that, and really the power of doing that. Whether it's just, I'm sure studying things throughout the day, maybe getting up and doing a miracle morning, meditation, prayer, I don't know, things like that. Power of mentors. That's something huge. And kind of going back a little bit to you leaving your job or leaving sales, a number of years ago, kind of bringing those things all together. What do you think is, because there's so many people that we all know in life that they're not incredibly happy where they're at, what they're doing. You kind of alluded to that in your own story, obviously. And what do you think separates you or people like you from all the people that are still working in that job and never left but did want to leave? I mean, what is that separation that you had, I guess, that you saw compared to other people?
Yeah, I think it might just be courage. It takes a lot of courage to take a risk, especially if you're going to go all in and quit your job. But some people are built a little bit differently. They want to take some calculated risks. So for the ones that don't have that much courage, you can basically do it part time, right? And
Mhm.
then once the part time activities, the income starts to really replace the full time activities, then that would work for you. But for me, it was courage, and I knew that it was going to work because I had belief in myself. Like I can always count on myself to put in the work, and I got that from my parents, though. So
Mhm.
and it also came from constantly trying to improve myself. There's this inner drive that a lot of people get. Sometimes you don't have that. So if you don't really have that drive, you could work towards it and maybe modify it, but you got to really want it. I think some people are just kind of like half-assing stuff. They're not
Mhm.
really, you um, and that could be the reason why they're being held back. The reality of it is this, Brandon. Like, you know, you can get into all these courses and read all these books and get all these courses and stuff, but if you're not going to apply what you learned, it's just a waste of time. And we don't have a lot of time, like
Right. Yeah.
tomorrow. So why not take action on a small little thing like, put out some marketing, would
Mhm.
be would do, and then answer the phone and talk to people and, you know, it's taking action. But before that, it takes courage to action to take that. So what served me the most in my career so far is that constant improving. And, I read a lot of books, but I also implement what I learn in those books, so it's implementing, failing, adjusting, and then you're going to see success.
Absolutely. Yep. No, well said. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head. At least I feel like, in my opinion, with at the end, I mean, you can, like you said, you can read everything you want and be disciplined in that area. But if you're not taking action and putting that into practice, then it's tough to, really truly learn all of it. And you just can't, like tennis, you can't read a book and be a great tennis player, right? You got to go put it into action at some point. And you said that very succinctly, very well. Transitioning a little bit in a way, but still, in the real estate realm, obviously, what is one thing that, you guys are starting to do, like I said in the beginning, give back more, starting to do some more coaching, you're creating a lot of content on different platforms. What is one of the big things that people come ask? We talked about sales already and stuff like that. So maybe that's it, but what is one of the big things, one of the big questions you continually see or continually get over and over again, whether it's maybe just a general real estate question, or maybe it's like, hey, RJ, I see you own, 130 units. Who's your property manager? Like what's the one thing you keep seeing over and over again from people, no matter, where they're from?
One of the main questions I get a lot right now, Brandon, is how do I get started?
Mm.
Um, and the best way that I can answer that is like, start. You've got all the knowledge. You've probably spent hours and hours and hours on YouTube. The books are getting dusty now, and gotta apply what you learn. And just don't be. It's not going to be perfect, Like you got to make moves. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have this like perfect move, right? Moving is what's going to make you perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's my biggest advice. It's like we get so stuck in paralysis analysis that we're not going to do it. And then we procrastinate it, and then it becomes a forgotten idea, and then you give up on your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it might also stem from like I'm talking a lot about mindset stuff, but mindset is a big key thing in being successful with this.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you can't be afraid to look small. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're who cares? Like when I finally started to not care what people thought about me in a sense of like, you know, um, I'm going to get judged, but I'm going to get judged anyways, so I might as well do it. So,
Yeah.
or you know, whatever. If you're banging up a sign on a pole, get up there and bang the sign on a pole.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Do the best you can, right? Yep.
yes. You know, I just see a lot of people not taking any action. We have a student that um, he's seeing traction now, but before he started seeing traction, he was getting too involved in like just the creation and systems and all that, and that's necessary, right? It is, but you gotta also work on revenue generating activities like talking to sellers and then talking to buyers.
Yep.
You know, your CRM, all those tools and all this stuff that can come later. That can be done after hours when you know the no one's picking up their phone. So you got to be very careful of your time. Just it's the whole perfectionism stuff. It's just not serving you in this. Especially if you're getting started, and even if you're farther along in your journey, like being a perfectionist usually leads to procrastination.
Yep. Absolutely. No, that's well said. What's one of the we talked about one of the questions that you get a lot, but what's maybe and you kind of touch on a little bit, just a student that's getting traction, but what's one of the better stories you've seen, whether it's from some of the students you're starting to coach now, or maybe from your own a win you had, or something to that effect, a seller that you helped, or someone that was in dire straits. What is one of the best stories that you've had, or someone you've been coaching has had so far?
Well, that student has a deal in contract a couple of days ago, so that's his first one. So that's a
Oh,
win.
nice.
We already have a buyer looking at that deal. Plus, we're a buyer, so we potentially might be able to take it down. But what I see a lot too in our business when we are um, buying properties from motivated sellers, we take a video testimonial. And I'm proud to say that we have probably the most video testimonials per seller in Ohio alone. And so
Wow.
if you site, which is sellhousecolumbus.com, you'll be
Mhm.
able to see a
Yeah,
number
we'll
of
link that. Yep.
YouTube. And we've helped hundreds and hundreds of people, and that's what we're all about. If you can take the stance of being a problem solver, you're going to make impact in people's lives and in your community. So those are some of the wins. Like, obviously monetarily, there's wins going on all the time, but
Right.
impact that we are leaving behind here. I'm not trying to sound cliche, but it feels good when, because we have hundreds of stellar testimonials, and time again, it's like, yeah, we really resonate with you guys. You guys did what you said that you were going to do, you know? So we've got a really great team. So I'm grateful for them. And now the team takes testimonials and they're posting it on our website. And we're going to continue doing that. We've seen a lot of success with that.
That's very cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, RJ. What's one of the big areas that you're really focusing on in real estate in general right now? We mentioned, the courses, you're starting to coach people, stuff like that. You were doing turnkey before and selling it off. Now you're focusing on your portfolio. It sounds like now, is it more the marketing end? What are you guys doing for marketing? I guess what are some of your main avenues? What are you doing to generate leads and help students generate leads? What does that all look like right now? The big focus.
So our big focus is building our portfolio. We did our planning session for this year, so we've got some really aggressive revenue goals. We're opening up another market here in quarter 2, and that's in Cleveland. So I think in those 4 markets, we should be able to hit our um, revenue goals, and plus the amount of new units that we want to add. Um, the To answer that, so that's question one, and then the other question you had was about marketing. So we're seeing a lot of traction with cold calling, sending ringless voicemail, and then text messaging. So those 3 things that we rotate. We have a whole system that the acquisitions team does to get these leads. And so if any of your listeners are on here and they're wholesaling, we're a proven buyer. So in Columbus, Dayton,
Mhm.
and Cincinnati, and soon to be in Cleveland. So definitely. So that's what's working for us. We also do some direct mail, but the 3 top ones are it's cold calls, text messages, and ringless voicemail.
Yeah. Do you find, digitally, obviously a lot of that, is it infinitely more scalable, I would imagine than mailing.
Direct mail used to be, and it still is, but it's the most expensive form of
Mhm.
advertising at the moment.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're sticking to what is working. We made that shift a couple years ago for um, just the purpose of seeing, like, because everyone was still heavy on direct mail, but no one was actually picking up the phone and cold calling, and then text messaging and the ringless voicemails has always worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Talking about the portfolio really quick. Are you guys managing yourself right now? Do you have a property manager doing it? What is client retention or tenant retention, I guess, look like just in the last year or so? Have you had many problems with it? What does that the management side look like?
Well, we have a third party that manages our properties. We used to have in-house property management, but with our third party, they allow us to control construction and leasing, which is important to us. And they're really good. They're really good at the rent collection and the accounting piece, and more the back end office piece. And
Mhm.
we've actually bought some properties from them last year for their owners that are looking to unload their portfolio and stuff like that. But um, you know, we took a proactive approach during the pandemic, and we stayed in the high 90%
Wow.
rent collection. And I think now, um, the good thing is that through that, there's a ton of organizations that are actually helping out residents that need that help. more so than ever nowadays. So we're for the residents that need that support. We're getting all of that documentation out in front of them so that they can stay in their home. So
Yep.
that's what.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same theme, kind of what you said. I really haven't seen anyone say less than 90%, even retention, just 90, maybe 95%. Everyone seems to be good, pretty good across the board, which is a good, sign as of right now, at least. Um, so just freedom in general, we talked about it in a little bit in the beginning. I think one of those things that, again, I can't remember if we talked about this on air or not, but just having your freedom number there, but also what are you aiming for? But a lot of people get that threshold that seemingly, whether it's 70,000 like we see kind of in the media portraying, where you get to some point where all of a sudden he's like, I'm starting to be comfortable, my needs are covered, stuff like that. And then that next level would probably be really financial freedom, obviously, where you are at a point where you're starting to give back, you're coaching more, stuff like that. Real estate, again, I think we've said many times, where it's you know how to make a dollar now, you know what to do, you've got your systems and process and doing it, and really now it's you realize, hey, this is about freedom. I was trying to obtain freedom, not necessarily the dollar. What does that, I guess, mean to you at the end of the day? I mean, and talk a little bit about just the course, the coaching you're doing and stuff like that, and giving back to the community.
Investors that are looking to scale their business, their rental portfolio from 5 to 10 properties to 50 to 100 and up. And we are coming out with some courses that do a little bit of a deep dive on what we basically do in our business, so that somebody can kind of get the information that they need, put it into action, and see results in their business. The mastermind is there so that we can help them more at a deeper level. And it's not just business there, it's fellowship and being able to help them also kind of at a personal level. And I really like the mastermind model because we are involved in several, and it's helped us tremendously. With when you're hanging out with like-minded people, that basically rubs off on you. And so we want to connect with people through that way, and have it make more of an impact than just selling a course and then never hearing from them again. So that's what we're up to. And then from as a giving back, we're involved in some charities here. One is locally, and then we're part of a group that gets involved with two other philanthropy type organizations. One of actually is in Mexico. They're building houses there. I really want to go on that trip. I think that's happening in March. And from the connections we made there, we've been able to go to Haiti a couple times, Nepal, Jamaica. And so now that hopefully this traveling thing
Yeah.
and dies down, I can get back to doing that, because that's allowed me to travel and see the world, but then also help, and give back, which is
Yeah. What it's all
great.
about. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, like you said, hopefully this all does subside and we can get back to somewhat normal life. And like you said, there's a lot of untold things that are happening because of those, and that's one of those things where there's travel because of people looking to give back. A lot of that stopped as well. It's not just people flying around the world just to take Instagram pictures. There's a lot of that. The charity that have been really at a standstill and things like that. So very cool that you guys are doing that. Cool. In wrapping here, the last, really last thing or two, and appreciate you being gracious with your time. What are some of the books? We talked about books a little bit, personal development, stuff like that. What are some of the books? You mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad was really the thing that kind of changed your life, one of the inflection points of your life, obviously. But even like right now, maybe a couple other books you really like, your top books, or maybe some books right now, or some material you're studying right now, whether it's YouTube. I know a lot of stuff has gone to YouTube or audiobook, obviously, and watching stuff now. But what are some of the things you've been watching and studying up on?
So one of the things that I always have on rotation, right, because it's a great book, is Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
There that I been listening to that book, reading it and listening to it several times in my life. And at each moment, each time I pick it up, there's always something new book. So that's always on rotation. Here's a new one that I'm almost done with. It's called The Master Key System. Good one. It's by Charles Hanel, and
Huh.
mindset book. And it talks about the power of like the law of attraction, but it has really good, things that you can like. It's like almost like a workbook, right?
Mhm.
You involved in writing things out, and I'm a big believer in that. You manifest things in your life. You know what you think about becomes in your life. So another book too that's really helped me is High Performance Habits by Brendan Bouchard. I think it's an amazing book. It talks about the habits of high performers and how they're able to perform day in and day out, and how they can just turn it on.
Mhm.
And then one that really put my business on upward trajectory was Traction by Gino Wickman,
Mm.
about the
Yeah.
vision. Talks
Yeah.
about COO and the integrator and building out an organization. So those are some really great books. A lot of them probably your audience knows about, and maybe not, but those are healthy. There's plenty of books. I got plenty of books behind me. I got plenty of audiobooks. Learning with audio and putting a lot of positive stuff into my brain, almost trying to trick myself into have, have the same funk, that
Yeah.
might show up. Some days are every day is a little different.
Yes.
Um,
No,
so
I
those are
think,
the
I mean, yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, again, I'm sure you've seen this in your life, but there's a common theme now with all the people that I talk to or interview or whatever it may be that have a level of success in their life. I mean, it's all the old adage or cliche of like you go into a wealthiest person's house and you see this massive library, right? And there's the personal development, the books, all of that are there. Obviously, it emanates from you. Anyone who has achieved that level of success, that's a very common theme in their life of, not just like, oh, I've read these books, but like, oh, I love this book. I've read this many times. Like it's a passion for an energy for just really growing. Like you said, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, you learn something every single time. You're at a different level of your life, and you see different things. You see it differently. So, yeah, it's huge, 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 huge. I think that's so. It just goes understated a lot of times, and everyone kind of passes it off like, oh, okay, it's a great book to read. But it's really like you said. A lot of this is about mindset, and I think that's where a lot. I mean, I know I tell my team every day. I mean, it's the economy is between your ears. I mean, it's your mindset is what you see in the world, and what you really get out of it. So, well said. And it just a common theme throughout this talk, obviously, and it's huge. But again, it's understated. So, any last pieces of advice for anyone getting started in real estate, or sales, or trying to venture down the road, or building a portfolio like you have? Any last things you can think of to share?
No, I'm gonna stick with this. I've been on this rant for a couple weeks now, but you have all the knowledge. It's right there within you. You gotta make the leap and make the jump, because you're not gonna be guaranteed tomorrow. So because we're not, so take action today. You got all the knowledge, and one small little thing of action is better than you procrastinating and not taking action. So I'm gonna leave you with that, because
Yeah, I love it. That's well said. And mindset and action. That's if anyone can take that away from this, boy oh boy, you're winning. So I appreciate it, RJ. What's the best way for people to come find you? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff you have going on, different places. What's the best way for people to come check you out and find you?
so I'm pretty active, more so on TikTok right now. That's a good platform for me. It's at the real RJ Pepino. And then I'm also on Instagram, and obviously you can find me here on Facebook. So three that I'm most active on.
Very cool. Awesome, RJ. Well, I appreciate it a ton, and we'll link to all that stuff as well. and on YouTube. We get that out. We'll link to all that. And I appreciate you spending time with us. That's for sure.